Inspiration for the navigators came from my trip to the Hewlett Cooper Museum, where I saw an exhibition of the astronaut suits. And I'm very taken with the beauty of those suits. They're fabulous. I came home and started developing that idea. First sculptures were of just the gloves themselves, because those in themselves are beautiful sculptures. And then carrying on with, well, who's wearing these gloves? And that led me to the astronaut and the navigator themselves. And so the figures began to be carrying this equipment. They also took on another level of meaning for me. Certainly they acted as inspiration to begin with, but then I saw them as bardo travelers, and that they're navigating the bardo. And the bardo is that period of time, about 7 weeks after we die, before we take a rebirth. We're in the bardo, and it's important for us to be able to navigate the bardo in order to be able to take a good rebirth. Light bulbs were the next source of inspiration, and I could see that there are enlightened beings out there in the bardo, that we're really not all alone when we're out there, and that they're going to assist us in finding our way. So enters the enlightened beings with the wonderful embedded light bulbs. Another body of work that I've been working with for about 10 years now are the spirit rocks. And the spirit rocks are inspired by my trips to China and seeing the rocks in their gardens. That their gardens are really about these rocks more than about plantings, such as we tend to think. Well, I could never afford to have a China rock of my own, but decided that perhaps I could make my own China rocks. So the Justice series started at the time of the death of my son. My son died under mysterious circumstances in Rome, Italy, and I was determined to pursue justice in regard to finding out what happened. And in that process, I was taken to the Hall of Justice in Rome, and there I saw the grand justice that we all know, where she's got that marvelous blindfold, and she has the scale and the sword, and I was very inspired, prayed to her to help us. And when I came home, I started doing justice pieces, and I thought, if I do enough justice pieces, we'll get justice, and that some kind of magic would happen if I kept making them. And so I made many, many justice pieces. So the Museum of Art and History here in Santa Cruz showed an interest in these works and embraced the emotion of the collection, and had a beautiful exhibition of the bronze pieces and of several of the maquettes leading up to those bronze pieces. They purchased some which are in their private collection, and even have the large Justice acquiesces to the feather in their sculpture garden. Maybe it has something to do with my Nordic background, that I could relate to that environment and the polar bear. But the polar bear kept coming into my life, sometimes as the mother who's protecting her young and takes them off and raises them by herself, which I did, and sometimes in a more facetious way of being playful. And now I've done the polar bear for this recent show, and it's, what is the polar bear doing now? Well, the polar bear has become a navigator. The polar bear has gained goggles, and the next one's going to have an underwater camera. And I decided to go back into my own body of work. The characters that have been presenting themselves in my work over the many decades. And so I pursued the navigator. What does the navigator look like today when I do her in this new way of working? What is Justice doing today? Justice is removing her veil. The navigators have sprouted wings, by the way, even though they still want their cameras. The polar bear is there. The polar bear has become a navigator, actually, I discovered. And there's only one way to discover that, and that is to do the piece, and then it's revealed to me. And then Daphne, also, who loves nature so much she wants to become nature. Every artist has to ask themselves why they're doing their art. Some do it to create the product itself and to sell it, and some do it to make beautiful things. But for me, it's got to do with self-discovery. To enter into that unknown place within myself, to use the skills that I have to come forth with the imagery that presents itself then, to make the unseen seen, to make the invisible visible, to make the unconscious conscious.